This short video will show you the difference between an absolute cell reference and a relative cell reference. Here we have a typical spreadsheet. Notice that we have several cities here and online, and then we have several quarterly sales for our computer laptops. Now, usually in spreadsheets, you want to total a particular column. So I'll come here, click on that column, click Auto Sum. Excel will pick the items that it thinks you want to auto sum, and this one it is correct, so I'm going to go ahead and press enter there, and it goes ahead and places the formula for there is to sum up B4 to B7. Now notice that for quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 I want to do the same thing, but I don't want to have to keep clicking auto sum for each of these cells, because just think if the spreadsheet was very large. So what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and copy it. So I'll move the cursor until it turns to a black cross in the bottom right hand corner of the cell, and then drag it across to the columns that I want to copy it to. Now notice in this cell it sums up B4 and B7. However, when I copied it to the adjacent one, notice how the columns change from B to C. Likewise, in this column it changes to D, and in this column it changes to E. Now I want to go ahead and total up the sales for each of my 4 items that are here. So again, I'm going to choose Auto Sum, and again notice how it selects what it thinks you want to auto sum, and in this case it guessed correctly. So again, in this lesson I'll explain the difference between a relative cell reference in Excel and an absolute cell reference. Here we have a typical worksheet. In the worksheet it consists of several rows and several columns. Notice across the columns we have the sales for the quarters for the different entities on the different rows. So what we'd like to do first is to total up the first quarter sales of all our 4 entities here, and to do that we place the cursor into that cell, click the auto sum button, and notice it sums up, it takes a guess at the 4 cells that we want to auto sum. Those are correct, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press enter. Now I want to copy this across to the other sales for the total for each of the quarters. Now if we look back at the first formula, notice how it sums up B4 to B7. If I move to the C column, notice that I want to total up the items in the C but the same rows, and notice that the copy formula does just that, that the column number from the previous cell B4 B7 is changed to C4 to C7. If we move to column D, we'll notice the sum changed here from D4 to D7, and likewise when we go to E, it goes to E4 to E7. This is a relative cell reference. Notice as I copy across from one column to the next, the column reference changes. Now I want to total up the Austin's total sales for the 4 quarters. And again, I'm going to press the auto sum button, and notice it selects the proper 4. I basically want to do the same thing here. What I'd like to do is to copy this formula for each one here. Now notice in this one the sum is B4 to E4. When I go down to the next row, notice it changes from B5 to E5, and again this is a relative reference. I'm going to press enter, go back to that cell, and again we're going to copy it just like we did before. So again, the sum here is B4 to E4, but notice when I come down to the next row, this time since I copied the item from one row to another, it changed the row components. So notice it went from B4 E4 to B5 E5. Likewise on the next row I'm going to have B6 E6, and then the next one I'm going to have B7 E7, and the last one I'll have B8 E8. Now all of these are relative cell references because when I copied it, it changed the cell accordingly. So if I copied it across columns, the column reference changed. If I copied it across rows, the row reference changed. Now here, I want to know what percent of the total is this value right here. So to do that, what I want to do is I want to take this value and divide it by the total. And that will give me the percentage of sales the 476,000 is of the 1.678 million. So now if I go and copy like I did before, let's watch what happens. Notice I'm going to get a divide by zero error, because notice that while this formula was F4 to F8 divided by F8, when I copied it down, it chose F5, which is correct, but notice it chose F9, and there's nothing in F9. So what we want to do is we want to keep this F8 the same in our formula as we copy it down over here. And to do that, I need to make it an absolute cell reference, and I do that by pressing the F4 function key, and that will change it to an absolute cell reference in both columns and rows. So no matter if I copy it across rows or copy it across columns, this value will stay the same for each one. So I'll go ahead and press enter to change that formula now to an absolute cell reference. Now when I copy it down, notice it has the correct value here. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this one because that's not part of it. So this is an absolute cell reference when you put a $sign in front of part of the formula. Now technically, since I'm only copying it from row to row, I would only need to put the $sign in front of the 8 and not in front of the F, because we only copying it from one row to another, and we would still get the same thing. So this is absolute cell reference versus relative.